When notorious KKK leader Edgar Ray Killen was sentenced to 60 years in prison for planning the vicious 1964 murders of 3 civil rights workers, many wondered what fate awaited him behind bars. The harsh reality is that prison isn't a haven for hate, and the Klan's infamous robes hold no power. But what exactly happens when the guards lock the doors and the outside world fades away? What harsh reality do KKK members face in the mean and unforgiving world of prison? The truth may surprise you. Number 8. Dylann Roof. Roof's troubled upbringing in Columbia, South Carolina, and a history of erratic behavior set the stage for his radical beliefs. Dropping out after attending several schools, he increasingly fixated on a warped view of racial purity. His behavior raised alarms, with arrests for drug possession and trespassing, yet no one predicted the extent of his violence. In 2015, 21-year-old Dylann Roof committed a horrific mass shooting at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, killing 9 African-American churchgoers. A devout white supremacist, Roof carried out the attack in a misguided effort to spark a race war. Captured the next day in North Carolina, he confessed his intentions and evidence. Selfies in a KKK hood, Nazi salutes, and a Confederate flag further incriminated him. He is currently on death row at the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. Number 7. Thomas Terran. In 1968, Thomas Terran was arrested after a violent shootout with police during a failed attempt to assassinate a prominent Jewish leader in Mississippi. He was sentenced to 30 years, and Terran's life took an unexpected turn. Fueled by rage over the civil rights movement, he joined the Ku Klux Klan, along with his partner, Kathy Ainsworth. He embraced extremist propaganda and trained in firearms and explosives. In May 28, 1968, the pair bombed Congregation Beth Israel, and a month later, they planned to target a Jewish community leader, Mia Davidson. However, the FBI and local police thwarted their plans. In the ensuing shootout, Ainsworth was killed, while Terran, though wounded, survived. Narrowly escaping the death penalty, Terran was imprisoned. In 1969, he attempted a prison escape with 2 inmates, but after a deadly shootout led to his recapture, he spent time in maximum security. Behind bars, his hate-filled views began to crumble. Reading philosophical works and the Bible, he renounced racism and became a born-again Christian. With the unlikely help of a Jewish community leader, Terran earned early release in 1976, eventually becoming a pastor and advocate against hate. Number 6. Daniel Lewis Lee. Lee's descent into extremism began when Kehoe recruited him 4 years earlier. His path worsened after he lost his left eye in a bar fight in Spokane after using a racial slur on a Native American. Lee displayed his scar proudly, earning the nickname Psy among neo-Nazi peers. By 1996, Lee and Kehoe planned to fund a white ethno-state. They targeted firearms dealer William Mueller, a man Lee and his father had robbed before. On January 11th, they dressed in police uniforms, broke into Mueller's home to steal guns, ammunition, and cash. After looting the property, they subdued Mueller, his wife, Nancy, and daughter, Sarah Elizabeth Powell, binding their heads with plastic bags, weighing them down with rocks, and dumping them in a swamp. While Kehoe was widely seen as the mastermind, his own family testified they killed Sarah. Lee was viewed as a submissive follower. Despite objections from the victim's family, the Justice Department pursued the death penalty for Lee. In 1999, Daniel Lewis Lee was sentenced to death, while his accomplice, Chevy Kehoe, received a life sentence. He was executed by lethal injection on July 14, 2020, while Lee maintained he was innocent. Number 5. Frazier Glenn Miller. Miller's extremist journey began in North Carolina, where he dropped out of high school and later served 20 years in the Army, reaching the rank of Master Sergeant. His radicalization started after reading a racist newspaper, The Thunderbolt. In 1979, he had joined the neo-Nazi National Socialist Party of America and was expelled from the Army in 1980 for distributing racist propaganda. Miller went on to found the Carolina Knights of the KKK, which later evolved into the White Patriot Party, a group that promoted apartheid and white nationalism. In 1987, he sent out a declaration of war targeting Jews, people of color, immigrants, and LGBTQ+ individuals. Authorities found a stash of weapons and explosives in his home. After a 3-year federal prison stint for weapons violations, he resumed his hate-filled activities. On April 13, 2014, he shot at the Overland Park Jewish Community Center in Kansas, killing 3 people while shouting Heil Hitler. Ironically, all 3 victims were Christians. Although he was sentenced to death, Miller died in prison on May 3, 2021, of natural causes. Number 4. Henry Francis Hayes. In 1981, Henry Francis Hayes and another KKK member murdered Michael Donald, a 19-year-old African-American, and hung his body from a tree. The killing was a brutal response to a trial outcome that angered white supremacists. Hayes' father, a high-ranking Klansman, argued that if a black man could kill a white man, the Klan should be allowed to do the reverse. On March 20, 1981, Hayes and James Tiger Knowles prowled Mobile, Alabama, armed with a gun and rope, seeking a black victim. They randomly selected Michael Donald, who was walking home with cigarettes for his sister. At gunpoint, Donald was forced into their car, taken to a secluded spot, beaten, strangled, and his throat was slit before he was hung from a tree near Hayes' home. Local police initially chased the wrong leads, delaying justice for over 2 years. In 1983, the FBI linked Hayes and Knowles to the crime. Knowles confessed and was sentenced to life in prison, while Hayes was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death. On June 6, 1997, Hayes was executed in Alabama's infamous electric chair, Yellow Mama. Number 3. Larry Webster. In 1993, 42-year-old Larry Webster was arrested in Galveston, Texas, on kidnapping and robbery charges. But he was more than just another prisoner. He was a proud KKK member. Originally formed after the Civil War for Confederate veterans, the Klan quickly turned into a hate group enforcing racial segregation and white supremacy, committing violence against African Americans, Asians, Latinos, Jews, Muslims, LGBTQ+ individuals, and others. Knowing his tattoos made him a target, Webster requested administrative segregation for safety. However, due to overcrowding, he was placed in a cell with black inmates. They soon recognized his affiliation and attacked him, leaving him with injuries that required a trip to the emergency room. After the assault, Webster represented himself in a civil trial against Galveston County, arguing that jail officials knowingly endangered him. He won a $55,000 verdict. Despite this, he was sentenced to 10 years for his crimes, showing just how dangerous prison can be for extremists. Number 2. Thomas Jordan Driver. In April 2015, authorities charged 2 state correctional officers, Thomas Jordan Driver and David Elliott Moran, along with former guard Charles Thomas Newcomb, all known KKK members, with plotting to kill a former black inmate. The twisted plan originated from a brawl at the Lake Butler Correctional Facility, where Driver claimed the inmate bit him, potentially exposing him to AIDS and hepatitis. Further, Driver showed his friends a photo of the inmate, who had since been released, and expressed his wish to see the man 6 feet under. An undercover FBI informant had infiltrated their circle, posing as an ally. The informant led the trio into a scheme involving kidnapping, insulin injections, or a straightforward shooting. To seal the case, the FBI staged a fake photo of the inmate appearing dead and captured the subject's gleeful reactions on hidden recordings. Driver's reactions stood out. He was overjoyed, even asking if the outcome met expectations. When the evidence surfaced, all 3 were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. In 2017, Driver pleaded guilty and received a 4-year sentence, while Moran and Newcomb, who pleaded not guilty, were ultimately convicted and sentenced to 12 years each. The Department of Corrections denounced their actions, reinforcing a zero-tolerance policy toward racism and prejudice within its ranks. Number 1. Edgar Ray Killen. Born in Philadelphia, Killen ran a local sawmill before meeting Sam Bowers, a co-founder of the Ku Klux Klan, who recruited him as a Kleagle, also known as a recruiter, and Clud, which meant chaplain for Klan members in Mississippi. During Freedom Summer in 1964, while efforts were underway to register black voters, activists like James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner were ambushed, kidnapped, and killed on orders from Klan members under Killen's command. Although Killen created an alibi, an informant exposed his involvement, leading to his arrest along with 18 others. After an initial trial ended in a hung jury, he remained free for 40 years until a 2005 retrial resulted in his conviction and 3 20-year sentences for manslaughter. In prison, Killen struggled to adapt, often getting in trouble for smuggling and disrespecting staff. In 2013, after an altercation with corrections officer Randa Johnson, he was placed in solitary confinement. On January 11, 2018, just before his 93rd birthday, Killen died at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. And those were 8 Klan members, and what happened to them after they went behind bars. Do you think they deserved what happened to them? Would you forgive those who found redemption? Let us know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more content just like this. Until next time, bye for now.